The flame that once lit the skies of Hollywood nearly consumed the soul of the man who carried its torch. In a twilight of red carpet flashes and thunderous applause, there stands a figure both mythic and broken: Nicolas Cage. Born Nicholas Kim Coppola on January 7, 1964, in Long Beach, California, he emerged from the shadows of a brilliant family name to carve his own path with fire, fearlessness, and heartbreak. This is his story of a boy made of silence and longing, an actor seeking truth in front of the camera, a star rising, burning, falling, and rising again. Where the spectacle of Hollywood flares brightest, the cost is often buried in the shadows. The Oscar triumph for Leaving Las Vegas, 1995. In that fragile, raw performance of a man destroying himself to remember what it was like to live, Cage didn't act. He bore his soul. The action apex with Face Off, 1997. Explosive, wild, unpredictable. The actor who once hid behind darkness now screamed across screen explosions and identity crises. The redemption in later years. After castles fell and the luxuries melted away, he found peace in quiet, family, and art that still hurts to watch. A fire turned flame. In a home in Long Beach, where books and perfume drifted like ghosts, a little boy watched shadows across his mother's face and heard the silence louder than laughter. His father, August Floyd Coppola, a literature professor steeped in philosophy. His mother, Joy Vogelang, a dancer whose art held the weight of unspoken sorrow. They lived in the glow of the late 1960s, California's sun streaming through open windows, music on the radio, rebellion in the air. Yet inside the house, the rhythm skipped. Some days were radiant, some terrifyingly still. Cage would later recall it. My mother struggled with her emotions. I didn't understand it, but I knew something was always wrong. At 12, the fragile marriage cracked. The divorce carved deep fractures into his heart. From the intellect of his father and the emotions of his mother, he said, "I have been living between them ever since." The silence became his companion. High school at Beverly Hills High brought its own storm. Being a Coppola was both privilege and curse. The classmates' whispers, the mocking that his path was bought, not earned. Each laugh cut deeper. To protect himself, he donned leather jacket and dark glasses, called himself Roy Richards. The disguise felt less a denial than reclamation. Then he chose a new name, Nicolas Cage, homage to avant-garde composer John Cage and Marvel's Luke Cage, symbols of freedom, of resilience. In the restlessness of his teenage soul, he found his sanctuary: acting. Mesmerized by James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, by Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon, he vowed to use every broken piece, every silence, to create something that moved others. He turned the wounds into fuel. At 17, Cage walked away from the shelter of his name and the promise in his family and drifted into the city of dreams, Los Angeles. He slept in cars or on floors, worked odd jobs, swept stages. His life was a series of rented rooms, rehearsals in the dark, whispered lines into nothingness just to feel heard. He boxed up the silence of his childhood and carried it with him. His early films, the modest opening of The Best of Times, 1981, that vanished quickly. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, 1982, where his scenes were cut, leaving him to think perhaps the dream had chosen the wrong person. When his uncle, Francis Ford Coppola, offered him a part in Rumblefish, Cage accepted. Not on mercy, on merit. He had changed his name. It was rebirth, not branding. And from that moment, he vowed to earn every scar. For Birdie, 1984, he had 2 teeth pulled without anesthesia, seeking to feel his character's agony. for Racing with the Moon, lived alone in a cold trailer, surviving on canned soup. Hollywood called him crazy. He called it truth. Night after night he stumbled off set, trembling, smelling of smoke and sweat, the price of his devotion. The cameras adored him, but the man behind them was disappearing. Then came the moment. The slow burn became a blaze. For Cage, the applause came in 1987. Moonstruck, his wild energy turned into magic on screen. The world stood up and saw him. In 1990, he exploded in Wild at Heart, chaotic, tender, fearless, and critics whispered reckless. Audiences whispered real. He surrendered. By mid-1990s, he stood at the summit. Leaving Las Vegas, 1995, won him the Oscar for Best Actor, portrayal of self-destruction as confession. The thunder of applause echoed, yet inside he whispered, "Is this what I wanted, or just what I survived?" The triumph felt more like mourning. Then the action took hold. The Rock, 1996, Con Air, 1997, Face Off, 1997. $20 million paychecks, blockbuster grosses, the world orbiting his name. The boy who slept in his car was now a global phenomenon. But gold is heavy. The higher he climbed, the thinner the air. The silence that once protected him had vanished. Only the roar remained. His roles kept coming. City of Angels, 1998, traded gunfire for grace. Even so, he felt lonelier than ever. Some films faltered. Snake Eyes, Captain Corelli's Mandolin, millions lost. And each failure cut deeper, not for the money, but for what the silence left behind. Then came the riches. National Treasure, 2004, roared to $347 million worldwide, lifting him to one of Hollywood's richest, with a $150 million fortune. But even in triumph, he felt the emptiness. The trophies no longer filled the night. He bought mansions, castles, islands, Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, meteorites, dinosaur skulls, artifacts of myth, the house that smelled of marble, of champagne, of ambition. But each room had 12 doors and no sound. Each night echoing laughter died unanswered. And then, debt. The global crash of 2008 hammered illusions. The IRS filed a $6.3 million lien. Homes sold at auction. He watched his reflections split in broken glass. The myth fell in silence. He refused bankruptcy. He sold everything not out of pride, but survival. Not just money. Pieces of a dream forged in fire were slipping away. With cameras still pointing, he chose to work more. 4, 5 films a year. Big budget. Indie. Doesn't matter. He was chasing redemption, not fame. Nights in roadside motels, memorizing lines under flickering bulbs. He said, "Pain teaches you what applause can't. It teaches you who you are when no one's watching." Slowly, the tide turned. Directors sought him not for the legend, but for the man who had walked through fire and came out scorched, but still shining. Smaller films. Joe, 2013, Mandy, 2018, each a whispered rebellion. Roles that asked less for the fireworks and more for truth. He kept his voice quiet, his hunger quieter. He called the fall grace. Maybe I needed to lose it all, to remember that acting was never about money. It was about truth. Even as stardom exploded, his relationships mirrored his life's arc. Beautiful, intense, fleeting, then gentler, wiser. First came Christina Fulton, actress, laughter, Dawn Drives Down Sunset Boulevard, newborn son Weston in 1990. For a time, he felt real. I finally have something real, something that doesn't disappear when the credits roll. But the tide pulled him away. Late nights, hotel rooms, voicemails in place of good nights. The love cooled before the lights turned off. They parted quietly. He said, "I was there for the work, but I should have been there for them." Then came Kristen Zhang. In early 90s, the calm to his wildfire, candlelit dinners, laughter that felt reprieve, the kind of partnership people said was too beautiful to last. It wasn't betrayal, it was the slow erosion of being out of sync. She left quietly, he remembered. She was the peace I didn't know how to keep. Then he married Patricia Arquette in 1995. The ghost of 10 years chasing him returned just weeks before his marriage. Their love was cinematic, wild, to storms dancing. But even the brightness cast shadows. 6 years, then silence. She said, "We were in love with the idea of love, not with each other." He said, "Beautiful, terrifying. I think I'll always hear her in the distance." In 2002, he married Lisa Marie Presley, the daughter of the king. Two hearts born into myth, trying to build something real. Their love burned loud and fast. On a bridge under yellow light, he hurled his $65,000 ring into the river, a symbol of promise breaking, grief in motion. The ring sank. The memory stayed. Maybe some things are meant to be lost, so we remember their weight. Then quiet emerged in an unlikely place, a sushi bar in Los Angeles, with Alice Kim, a young waitress with kind eyes. He was 40, she 20. No flashing cameras, no headline love. Just two people seeking calm. They married in 2004, had a son, Kal-El, named after Superman, and lived simply. She grounded him. Through fortunes gone, headlines mocking, she stayed. When everything else disappeared, she was still there. But time has seasons. In 2016, they separated quietly. He said, "She was my best friend. We just grew apart." Finally, fate and peace found him in Japan. At an art gallery, he met Riko Shibata, soft-spoken, steady. They married February 16, 2021, on his father's birthday. In September 2022, their daughter, August Francesca, arrived. Fatherhood renewed him, father of 3, teacher to his own heart. He said, "I found peace not in fame, but in the quiet laughter of my wife and daughter." Now, in his 60s, Cage no longer chases the flame. He tends it. His recent films, Pig, 2021, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, 2022, Dream Scenario, 2023, reflect a man unafraid to age, to feel, to still burn quietly. He's paid every debt. He's rebuilt from the ground up. The house in Malibu, the collection of cars, the meteorite kept not as trophy, but memory. I learned that the weight of things can drown you. I only keep what reminds me of who I was, not what I owned. In a candid interview, he admitted he might have only 3 or 4 more movies left in me. The man who once conquered Hollywood now contemplates family, time, and legacy. His story isn't about wealth regained or fame sustained. It is about courage. The courage to begin again. The man who burned the brightest found that sometimes the truest light glows softly. If his journey, from a boy haunted by silence to a man who rewrote his legacy, touched you or inspired you, press that like button now. Subscribe for more stories of human triumph and fall. Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you admire the resilience of Nicolas Cage today? Your opinion matters. And as this story fades into its final frame, we wish you the same. A heart steady with gratitude. A life rich not in trophies, but in quiet joy. May you be blessed with peace in your soul, strength in your days, and the gentle wealth of a happy heart.